looks like it's recording.
You thinking it looks like it's recording. That's a good thing.
All right. I hope so.
Step 101, guys. Just kind of play with stuff and see if it works.
Click buttons until something happens.
That's right.
All right. So I think we're going. So, hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. We've been talking about doing this for like a week now.
Yeah. Finally getting around to it.
Yeah.
Took a second, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, I should probably talk about what this is.
Take it away, brother.
Yeah. So this is our attempt at a podcast, I guess it would be called. I don't know, whatever. Deaf Wish. Basically, we just wanted to make a podcast talking about. Well, there's a bunch of audio podcasts out there, but all of those guys do really large, borderline, seemingly unobtainable acts, right?
Right.
And so what we kind of decided to do was to just take this on and talk about our experience being with some mid-level, smaller bands, whatever it's called.
Venues to normal, kind of regular, everyday venues that people come through and tour, and that isn't so corporate and arena level and sophisticated and scary and professional. I should say not professional, but you know,
we're touring with bands that have production, but they don't have $1 million productions.
Right.
So, doesn't there's I know that when I was starting out, I had a lot of questions and was curious how things were, and it seems like a lot of other people, when I put this out there as saying like, hey, if we did this, would anyone want to watch it? And it seemed like there's a lot of people that were like, yeah, it seems interesting, or they were like, I want to get into that, and I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Well, I mean, none of us know what we're doing, so.
Right. It's kind of an ongoing, you know, that feeling never quite goes away. You know, it just, you just kind of figure it out as it comes. You know, if you truly belong, your path will, you know, you'll find your way in it, and, you know, dreams will happen. Just kind of like anything, you know, my friends will come home from a trip and people ask me like, man, how'd you get that kind of gig? Or how'd you get into that? And it's like, well, how'd you become a nurse? Or how'd you become, you know, the head chef of that nice restaurant over there? Or, you know, whatever. Yeah. You know, it's just, you put in the time and it was what you were interested in, and you knew somebody and you talked to them and hit it off or whatever. And that's what your path was, you know, and I don't know. It takes a little bit of just some of that and dedication to the art and the, you know, the passion of it. So.
Yeah, totally. So this is the first episode. A lot of people, well, I don't know about a lot, but a decent amount of people watching this aren't going to know who you or I probably are. So, do you want to start off just saying what you do right now, what people would know you from, all that kind of stuff, how you got to where you are?
Right. So for those who don't know me, my name is Shelby. I work for the band Wage War, primarily. So they've kind of taken me all over the world, and I've been able to take their rig from just a few guitar amps and a drum set to a full-on IEM rig, and, you know, Kemper amps and, you know, digital direct-in stuff. And I roll a whole front of house rig with waves, and you know, yeah, we've really kind of pushed the do-it-yourself level touring, I guess you could say, and have been having a lot of fun with it, you know, of course, up until recently. So, and other bands I've toured with would be like Real Friends, and on Warped Tour, I've, you know, got, of course, a bunch of opportunities to mix different bands and whatnot. Just, you know how that goes. And, you know, through the grapevine, you find yourself mixing bands that you listened to in high school, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So you're standing there at the console, you know, after your, you know, 2 or 3 songs and sweat all the bullets out, and you're like, it hits you and you're like, whoa, this is that band. Whoa, this is really cool. That song hits you and you're like, this is what I'm doing this for, you know? So
I don't even think I know. How did you end up with the Wage War guys and all that? Because are they the first band that you ended up going out with? Or
yeah. So cool. My history of how I got into sound was just fresh out of high school. I worked with a small DIY kind of sound company here in South Florida, and Chris and I used to play in a pop punk band together in South Florida and went to high school together. So we grew up together, and you know how it goes. Your friend from high school joins a band, they start touring, you know, they do Warped or whatever. And I was kind of in the sound thing, you know, doing some monitor mixing, light front of house stuff, not too serious, really not super into mixing like that kind of music. I primarily do like orchestra and plays and like tribute bands down here, nothing like heavy rock and roll like that. So yeah, it was just my friend that, you know, rolled the dice on me, was like, yeah, come out with us. And took me on my first tour, which was Every Time I Die and Us, and 68, which was super sick. And, you know, I just kind of figured it out, you know. And of course, you know, my first few shows mixing metal was like, oof. And as you know, you get it, and it just,
it's a little different.
Yeah, way different. And it's like, what the heck is a gate? Never really needed to use that before. You know. And
yeah,
man, you know, like, so yeah, you just kind of trial by fire, man. And before you know it, a few years later, circled the planet a few times and have done, you know, big and small gigs, been in front of, you know, 5, 6, 10,000 people, and everything down to 200-300 cap rooms, and, you know, everywhere in between. So
yeah,
it's an exploration.
Totally. Yeah, because you have a venue you work at home regularly when the world's not ending, right?
Yeah, it's called the Lyric Theater. So it's like a little 500 seated theater that's like 96 or 97 some odd years old. And we do lots of plays, orchestra, tribute bands, like I had mentioned, some blues and country kind of stuff. And it's real seasonal. So I'm in the fortunate position where I'm home in like the winter months when we're not doing too much touring. I get to, you know, take care of that side. And so it's a great little theater, and it's, you know, where I kind of cut my teeth and learned. It was like my first time, you know, there's a Midas Pro 2 up there. So it was the first time on a real digital desk, you know.
Yeah.
And just, you know, yeah, that was where I learned, and I love it. It's like one of the best home gigs ever, you know. It's air conditioned, it's clean, they have snacks in the back, like it's 30 minutes from the house, you know, it's great. So,
yeah, I envy the air conditioning part.
Yeah, you get right. You understand, like said and done.
Yeah. Somewhat of I mean, it's a relatively different story for me, I guess, with Fit. Because obviously they're from Texas. I'm from Phoenix, not remote. Mm-hmm. And just for anyone else watching who doesn't know, Shelby lives in Florida, like he said. I live here. We've met through just our bands knowing each other and running into each other. Yeah, so I had toured. By the time I met Fit, I had already toured, so I'll take it back. So I started more or less at a venue here called the Nile Theater. Still work there, still going. It's a 100-year-old building. Not the greatest acoustics in the world. Two rooms. You know, pretty abysmal air conditioning in the summer.
But it's a fun little spot, man.
No, yeah, it's home. I've learned how to do everything there. Learned how to fix everything. But yeah, it started out there. I've branched out since then, like locally. I work at a bunch of venues around town when, you know, the world's not ending again. I had done a couple tours doing like merch and driving for like really, 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 really small bands that like don't exist and haven't existed.
Local homies and
friends, and a couple gigs that were just through people I knew.
The vacation gigs.
Yeah, essentially. And like when I started at the Nile, I wasn't even doing sound. I was just doing whatever to work there because I just went there for shows anyway. So I was like, I was going to school for recording, but I didn't totally know what I was going to do with it. And then one day it clicked, like, oh shit, someone gets paid to like mix the bands I'm watching.
Right.
It's like, I was like, oh, I don't have to make records. I can do this.
And it's like immediate money.
Yeah. So like,
it's like cutting hair. You go, you do the job, and you get paid.
Totally. So I was just doing whatever to get an in there. And then one day I was like, so I would like sell waters and stuff at like the old snack bar that used to be there before they could sell alcohol. Mm-hmm. And a lady who runs the place, Michelle, one day was like, yo, someone told me you go to school for sound. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, do you want to do sound? And I was just like, yeah.
Right. So, you're like, me?
Yeah. So I immediately got thrown onto like a really small show, and it was just like I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, I had some friends that worked there that did sound that showed up and made sure I wasn't sinking, and then left because they didn't want to. They didn't want to be there. But from there, just did some other stuff, toured with some other bands. I met Fit because I was mixing a headliner. I was mixing The Word Alive, and Fit was the direct band. Their manager reached out to me being like, yo, do you just want to mix them too? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, extra money, why not? So I hit it off with them, and basically at the end of that tour, they had a whole year lined up, and they were like, hey, we're doing another tour in a couple months. Like, if you want to do it, we'd love to have you come out and do it. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I ended up doing that one with Whitechapel. It was like a B market tour, which for people that don't know, B market, it's like not major cities. And yeah, we did that, and then I've just kind of been with them ever since. And yeah, same thing. We took them from, 7 dudes in a 15-passenger van with a trailer and some guitar amps to full blown. We're just a rack, awesome. Just some in-ears,
rack, some ears, no wedges, no cabs.
We carry yeah, we carry literally everything. Right as the world was ending, we were on what was like their big headliner, with like it's like the first time we had like full production, which was sick. Had an LD, your guys' same LD you guys use, Jim. Shout out Jim,
the boy. Shout out Jim, missy buddy.
I just saw him not too long ago, but yeah, just been with them ever since doing that. Mixed a bunch of other bands too on tour now. Silent Planet era, Every Time I Die, Fit for an Autopsy. A lot of bands that just like were on tour with us and didn't have anybody and just were like, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure.
You're there. Yeah, you were the guy. You just happened to kind of know what you were doing that night, and
yeah,
you were in line,
Well, yeah, and it was a kind of a thing where when I started touring, I had no business being in the positions that I was in.
I feel like none of us are,
No, I had literally no business. So I would just mix anybody that wanted me to because I just wanted to get better at it. And
of course, yeah.
Theoretically, I have. I mean, who knows?
Right, yeah. Well, and it's like anything else, man. It's like you win some and you lose some. It's some nights you have a great night. Some nights it's just, man, you just want to go lay in your bunk and, don't talk to anybody.
Yeah, you just want to forget about it. You just kind of like, you load out of the venue doing this.
Yeah, you're just like, don't look at me. And then there's going to be like a couple kids like, dude, it sounded great. And you'll be like, what are you listening to?
You're like, we weren't in the same room, were we?
Right.
And
you're like, I mean, you're cutting, you got to like put yourself in the position. You're like, man, it did sound, it sounded fine and sounded good. And everybody, if kids are moshing and having fun, they're selling t-shirts, like you're winning, man. So
yeah, you're your own critic, your worst critic. So it's,
every night.
Yeah. It's always a battle to do that. And then also when, you finally see someone from the band, they're like, oh, how was it? And you're just like, you're upset about something stupid.
You're like, you're like, I freaking missed that delay.
Yeah, and you have to be like, no, it was fine. It was fine. I'm just being an idiot. It was totally fine. No one cared. It was great. So, yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I miss doing it, man.
Yeah, definitely.
What have you been up to since the halt of the world?
I honestly took obviously like everybody, a big long break. Some people kind of found some side work and some side hustles. I've been cleaning out my grandparents' garage and doing some eBay and, whatnot. And, it's summertime, so tons of paddleboarding in the last year or so. I've kind of fallen in love with paddleboarding of all things. And
sounds cool.
Go out with my father a lot and even by myself, and just love to go hang out with manatees and the sea turtles and float around and get sunburnt and, play a little bit of video games, got the Switch, and that's pretty much it. Been playing a lot more guitar now that I have the time. It kind of like had that, how it goes when you grow up playing like drums or guitar or something, and then you start touring and you come home and you're just uninspired to even look at a guitar or whatever.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, have all the time to just noodle around and play with the pedals and turn up the, the guitar amp and just piss off the neighbors again. And
Yeah.
You know, so just really just taking the time to do it, you know?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of the same things. I've been doing a little bit of like studio side of stuff. I mixed like an EP for a local band, and like a couple kids podcasts, and waiting for another project to roll in. I might start doing some live streaming stuff, waiting to see what happens with that. I helped with some music videos and like a live thing that we're doing. But yeah, like other than that, like it's the same thing. I think we're all just kind of sitting. If you're lucky enough to have either found a new side thing just for the time being, or if you got lucky with unemployment, everyone's just kind of hanging out. Other than that,
right.
I mean, there's not much. There's not even much to do on that side.
And it's such a crazy thing. Even just like some of the, bigger guys in the industry have even said, it's, you put in all this work, 10, 15, 20 years or whatever into your dream. And then it all just, not because something you did or something necessarily happened because of what you did or in your particular life, but the whole entire industry just slams its door in your face. And it's just,
it's weird.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And, then it's like, oh, we'll just get a new job. And it's like, well, we all can't just go work for Amazon or Walmart,
Yeah.
What are we all going to deliver each other the same toilet paper? It just, but that's politics. And we don't have to go down that road.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, same thing we we're just talking about, you work at something for, for me, like, I don't know, I think it's been like 7 or 8 years of just, and, the first like 3 of those was like, realistically horrible, just doing whatever. So it's like it's a weird thing that hopefully after this we never have to experience again, but whatever.
It's interesting because when we first started talking about this and like kind of jotting down ideas of what to talk about, I was just even reflecting on how I was feeling earlier this year, because even, January, February, we were out. Luckily enough, we got the very tail end of it. We were out in Europe for 3.5, 4 weeks or so. And then in Australia, that was my first time, which Australia was amazing.
Jealous. I was supposed to go before.
Like, I mean, we literally flew in back to the US on March 2nd. And it was like, I literally had a gig on March 3rd. And I think it was like 2 or 3 days later, I was literally rolling out cable on a stage, and my boss came walking out and was like, pack up, we're going home. No more gigs for the rest of the week or the next few weeks. And I was like, what in the world? And just like that, soon enough, all the tours started dropping and it got serious, and here we are today. So it was funny because, we were out and I was feeling like I was stressed out because we had toured a lot, and I was really homesick and like, oh man, I really need a break. I'd love, at least a solid, 2 months at home just to like, how it is, even a 1 month at home, it's like you're finally just getting into your normal like routine of the home of getting, doing your laundry at, once a week or so, and
getting to shower every day.
Right. Going your same breakfast joint or whatever. And then you have to leave again. And it's like, oh. And then before I knew it, here I am 6 months later, like dying to get back in front of my console again and push some buttons and hang out with the guys and eat the same junk food and,
Yeah, I see. I got lucky because we did those videos, and they flew me and our photo guy, merch guy, kind of switches off depending on tours. Lives with me, so we both got to fly out there and hang out with him. But it was kind of weird and bittersweet because it was like, I'm probably not going to see you for like a year.
Right. Yeah.
And when everything was ending, we were on tour because you guys, you guys had just gotten home, like you were saying. We had just started. We were 5 days in, so we did. So we did like a week in Texas where we had a couple days of pre-pro, so Jim could program lights, I could do whatever with sound stuff, get stuff dialed in. We played 5 shows, and I think it was the second or the third one was in Cleveland at House of Blues, and love that House of Blues. But
oh, so much fun. I think that was my first House of Blues was Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I mean,
it's like kind of small, right?
Yeah, it's 2 stories. It's like I mean, they're all like 2 stories, but like big old like EV array.
Yeah.
They used to be analog. Now there's a Pro 2.
Yeah.
Stage is pretty good. You like push in through those ramps and stuff. Either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was my first one.
Like, it was funny because before the tour started, I had texted Fitz, vocalist, and I was like, hey, do you think this virus thing's gonna like screw us at all? And he was like, oh, maybe with Europe and Japan, but I think US is gonna be fine. Little did we know.
Right.
But we were at that House of Blues, and like the night before, there was all the news going around that the governor of Ohio was like, gonna put Ohio in a stay-at-home, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and so we, as far as I knew, when I was advancing with the venue, they were all just like, yeah, as far as we know, we're still doing it. We loaded in, and I was talking to them, and they were just like, yeah, like let's just do it like we're gonna do it, and if word comes down that we can't, we can't. But we're just going to truck along. They were awesome. They were really awesome because we were all just in this weird funk where, we're all trying to like keep each other positive. We sound checked, the whole tour backline and everything. Chelsea Grin sound checked, Alpha Wolf sound checked. And then we were sitting there and the governor did his press conference and announced it. And so I'm sitting in like the production office with, the guy that was stage managing and in charge of our show, because there was 2 shows that night, because Bad Omens, I think it was Bad Omens.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They were in the small...
shout out, Matt.
Yeah, shout out, Matt. Buddy. They were in the small room, and they just, like, stopped everything. Because I remember Matt came in, it was just, like, in our room, and he's just like, are you guys still going? And we were just like, yeah, might as well.
Right.
Because everybody thought that we weren't going to be able to go. Right. Like, even the people at the venue were just like, I don't know. And so... Yeah. We literally had to wait for, I think it was like someone in charge, someone super high up in Live Nation was on the phone with like the governor being like, hey, we have these people here and all this stuff. And basically they were just like, yeah, if doors open, we're doing the show and it'll just be the last show. And then we got to go ahead to basically be like, yeah, just do it. So we did it. And it was like the weirdest thing because we had 2 bands on that tour that weren't from America.
Right. So that you were with
Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake, and we were just with them in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you guys with Alpha Wolf too?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like pretty much the same people, but we had both of them, and they were just kind of like, hey, dude, what? I'm tour managing the tour, so they're coming to me going like, what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Yeah.
Fitz manager lives in Ohio, so he was at the show, and we're just backstage the whole show. We're trying to all stay positive, but we're on the phone with their agent and stuff, just trying to figure out what's happening. The next day was supposed to be, I think, Detroit at St. Andrews, and it was like got the plug pulled like during that show, and then we were just kind of like, basically it got to the point where we were all just like, well, hopefully we can do Illinois. And then we'll probably have to call it and then just reschedule. So we ended up getting to do Joliet at the Forge, which was crazy big, crazy awesome show. Weird, really bittersweet. And then loaded up some box trucks because we were closer to Squeak Lights and Merch Now or wherever.
Got it. You divided up all the stuff.
Yeah, so some of us went back to Texas that were flying home and going back to Texas. One guy... Tuck, their bassist, lives in New York, so him and Jim just drove everything back, and it was like weird. And it was kind of a weird thing because we got rebooked for summer, and obviously, we know now that didn't. Yeah. Well,
that was a sad thing. Seeing everything just get pushed back, like, oh, we'll get pushed back a month or 2, and another, and it's like, oh shoot, man, it's gonna be a minute here. Yeah. So like even anyways, go ahead.
No, I feel you. Like, I'm supposed to be, what day is today? Today is the 14th of August as we're filming. I think I'm supposed to either be in Texas or we're supposed to be on tour with Parkway Drive right now.
Yeah.
Like, in arenas.
Yeah. So yeah, like we were supposed to do all the big summer European festivals, and it would be my first time doing those size of a gig, So I was super excited, and it's a dream come true. I grew up watching YouTube videos of like Limp Bizkit at Rock and Ring, and just whoever, just all at all those big events, and it was right there, right in front of me, and then, it gets stripped away. But we're rebooked for next year at some of them, or if not all of them, I think, and hopefully those stick. We're just fingers crossed that this calms down and we get to go back out.
Yeah, we have I think pretty much all of next year. Most of it was booked already with stuff that was just going to happen next year. And then like a bunch of our stuff got moved to next year. Or I think one or two tours, because there's some that I don't think are happening anymore, period.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's weird. It's odd.
That's another thing I've been trying to like wrap my brain around is what's going to happen with the things that were in place and kind of canceled. Are they like pushed up to the kind of front to happen immediately, or are they kind of pushed towards the back or sprinkled in wherever where what's available, or like how are things going to be made up for that were even sold? I know a lot of tours were for some of the big corporate kind of events were sold out and whatnot, and people are still have their ticket and like, what the heck am I supposed to do with this ticket? My parents, for one of them, were just talking about it at dinner the other night, and
yeah, it's gonna be weird to see how things get rescheduled. Because there's so much stuff from this year. I think a lot of bands that had stuff playing this year are just like over it.
Yeah, it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah, like I mean, at this point, the whole year is gonna be a wash.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be interesting to see how things get organized, like you were saying, and then also see, because some people are saying that smaller venues will open before bigger ones,
right.
that thing. So I'm curious if we'll see like shows that would have been in 2,000 caps in a 500
are going
to
be in like 500 cap clubs, which would be kind of cool too,
Yeah, wouldn't be bummed about it, but then I wonder if that's going to make like a mad dash.
Weird, right? Yeah,
I don't know.
Weird niche market. Well, and I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because even the other day, I haven't been able to hang out with some of my friends that I haven't seen in a few years. So I was hanging out at one of the tattoo shops, and we went down to one of the bars, and there was a band playing on stage, and there wasn't a ton of people in the bar, but I'm like, oh my God, like there's guitars and a drum set up there. And I like, inside of me was like, this is awesome. And the other side of me was like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Stop. I was like, go, stop. I was like, no. And the other side was like, yeah. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it's odd. I was gonna say something, I don't remember what it was. It'll come back to me. Yeah, like I don't know, man. I mean, and then on top of what we were talking about like 10 seconds ago, this reminds me, if anybody's watching this, they should go check out NEVA and Save Our Stages, because unless people organize and government helps or something, like
right.
It was I think it's something crazy like 85% or 90% of independent venues are going to be gone by the end of the year.
Yeah. Like I've heard some like legendary venues out west are like, tanking, already going under. I know there's some venues here at home that are, really struggling and, have, posting GoFundMe's and stuff. And
yeah,
it's scary and it's sad because they're the venues that we grew up with. And
yeah, it's going to be a whole different landscape probably when we get back to it, which is going to be weird.
And then the other side of me too is, at least in my area, there's been kind of, several companies that kind of have been around for a while and now kind of downsizing because of this. And I'm thinking, maybe this is a good time to get into that kind of weird niche like wedding circuit and the food truck event thing. And, that, you can plop a ground stack and a couple small digital consoles. And, that I have a lot of that kind of stuff out here in Florida because it's, hot year round. We have the beach. I live on the beach, basically. I'm like 2 miles away. So it's like, it's just kind of that cool South Florida thing that we do where, we have a little pop out stage and a few speakers and,
That's all you need. Everyone just hangs out.
Yeah. It's just kind of the thing. And, so for me, I'm like, do I explore that kind of option when it comes back? Cause I'm thinking, if big rock and, big events, kind of like a House of Blues type event might not be able to come back right away, but something out in a big field and, kind of spaced out. Like I've even seen on your postings from, people overseas in Europe, some of the European countries that have done, social distance events, with like, I saw a picture the other day, there was like a bunch of scaffolding and people sitting on each different thing of scaffolding, which was kind of crazy. I was like, somebody sold that bill.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
And, just like people sitting at different picnic benches and whatnot, which is, again, could be maybe a controversial topic in itself, but some people are comfortable and are doing it over there, and it seems to be working. So it's hopeful in the very least.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's been interesting already seeing what kind of things people are doing to fill that space, of like not being able to have big gatherings or even any really gatherings. Like I was saying before, like, I might get to do some live streaming later, like in a couple months or a month or two. But like, it's interesting seeing that really evolve, but it's like the kind of thing where it's weird because it's like, it can't replace just being there.
Right. And even some of my, close friends and family members at home that have kind of, that don't at all have an idea of what this is like and the satisfaction you get from, putting on a live show. They mentioned the streaming and this, that, the other, and it's like, yes, and it's possible, but they also kind of don't understand, like, maybe for somebody like, and I'm just going to throw a wild name out there, like Beyonce would be able to sell a streaming event and people would, get on HBO and pay, 20, 30, 50, but whatever, to watch that. But, maybe for, the more normal kind of our mainstream line of touring level, just, not everybody, especially right now that everybody's broken out of jobs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like how is that gonna?
Yeah, it's weird. I was just talking to somebody else about this, about like people paying for streaming, or people like, I know some bands have been like in our world, like the working class bands, have like done some successful like ticketed streaming things.
Right. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just,
no, for sure.
Just being, questionable, and curious, like what does that really look like on paper?
No, because I agree. I mean, I agree with you. It's like, unless you have a following of some kind that's willing to pay for that.
That's going to really like log in at 6 p.m. Eastern time or whatever. And, pay that 10 or 15 bucks. And then on top of it, like how many of those can you do? How consistently? Because like, can you do that every night? Once a week, once a month, once every 6, what's the threshold there? Because like a lot of, if you tour, especially the band guys know, and the tour managers know. I'm not a tour manager, but there's the money's in touring and selling tickets and getting to the, each sitting and selling merch and yada, yada, yada. So it's not just, it's not all just, streams and YouTube and whatever. And again, numbers and politics and within that, but what does that really look like for the average band that we work with, and the common sound guy, and whether it's a touring sound guy or light guy or house level,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting thing to watch for sure. I don't know what else you want to talk about in this one that's not horribly sad.
Let's not hoard the first one. Let's see if we get some kind of bait. Let's fish for some questions. Maybe kind of brainstorm on next time. We can touch up on some like particular gear we like to work with, and go through the rig and see what people think of that.
Yeah, I not entirely sure where this is going to go up. I'm assuming I'm going to put it on YouTube to start.
Sure.
And then, so if this is on YouTube, there in the description, I'll make an email or something. Send questions, send topics, whatever you want to hear about. I already know. I ran
send jokes, make fun of us.
Yeah, send
I talk
memes.
Weird. I just got these Invisalign braces, so my teeth are all chattering, and I talk with a lisp now. So,
just send suggestions, whatever you want us to talk about. I know I already ran some like Instagram polls and stuff on my own personal stuff, and a lot of people, people wanted to hear about what we do, because I think a lot of people don't really know what we do.
Right.
A lot of people wanted to
The
hear
day to day. A lot of people, even just like what it's really like to live in a bus for 6 weeks at 6 weeks out of a time, and what it's like to have to poop at 3 a.m. and you can't.
And you're moving.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're just like, oh.
I know a lot of people wanted to hear some stories, so I'm sure we'll get around to that. Yeah, whatever. I'll put an email in the thing. Hit us with what you want to hear about, and we'll try to do it. I mean,
cool, man. Sounds good. Hey, it was good chatting, catching up too, man. Miss you, buddy.
Miss you too. I was funny. I just realized the last time I saw you was almost exactly a year ago.
Right. Yeah.
At iMatter in New York, because I got on Instagram. I got the memory of it was a video of all of my guys, all of your guys, all crammed into a tiny bandwagon, all trying to play Super Smash Brothers together.
Yes.
So like 15 men in an RV, basically.
You need to send that to me.
I'll find it.
Yeah, find it. That's a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. That's a whole
weird
story
one.
in itself.
That was a weird one.
Yeah, I had a console crash that day, if I remember correctly. And
you had a console crash, and then they turned power off to you in a different set, right?
Yeah, in the middle of our Wage War set, because I mixed Beartooth that night, which was a dream in itself. But yeah, I had my personal console crash that night, and we can talk all about how.
We'll talk about it. I'm sure that's one for the stories episode.
Yeah, that's a story one.
That whole day was weird chaos.
Right.
All right. Well, I'll leave it at that.
Good chat, bud.
Yeah. Send questions and stuff, people.